Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated for the continued health of Rabbani Chana Farchi Chana Batzim Fega, for the speedy refuah shlema of Rabbi Eliyahu Badi Eliyahu Shema Mazafa Tunei. Dedicated loving memory of Joseph Abramoff, Leilu Nishmat Yosef ben Fortuna V'Meir, by his son and daughter Meir and Emily Abramoff, as well dedicated by Jason Beda in honor of the birthday of his wife Raquel Beda. May she merit a year of health, happiness, and daily breakfast in the class. What a beautiful bracha. Also loving memory of Nishmat Rabbi Hananya El Malem, sponsored by his grandson Gabriel Amos. And the week of Kobu was sponsored by David Yash in honor of you and your unwavering commitment to doing good for the state of Israel and for others around you during these challenging times today and every day. And the coffee, my friends, is, just to be clear, the hot coffee, is donated by the Betesh family from French Press. Hazaku Baruch. Yeah, does anyone want to donate the salt and pepper, guys? I don't know what no, nobody? Okay. We're going to do individual grains of salt. You got the 18? Okay, let's go. The Pasuk says something magnificent. Vayimtzeu bik'ah be'eretz Shinar. And they found, bik'ah means a valley. They found a valley in the land of Shinar. Where is Shinar? Bavel. Vayomeru, and the people said, Hava nivnei lanu iru migdal. We're going to build for ourselves a city and a tower. V'rosho b'shamayim. The head of this tower is going to be in the heavens. V'na'aseh lanu shem. We're going to make for ourselves a name. Pen nafutz al penei kol haaretz. Maybe we will spread across all the earth. Now, my friends, our rabbis tell us that if you look carefully, you'll notice something very interesting. And I want to just share an actual conversation that took place between a person that we should all know, whose name is Thomas Masaryk. Who's Thomas Masaryk? Anyone know? Nobody? All of us Halabi are like maybe Thomas Masry? No, not Thomas Masry. Thomas Masaryk was the leader of Czechoslovakia. Sammy's like the football team, Czechoslovakia. And in 48, when Israel had no weapons, Masaryk, who had felt the need and the kinsmanship because of their own uprising, of their own fight for freedom, they provided rifles to the Israeli army, to the Israeli soldier, right back at the beginning of the state in 1948. In fact, there are streets in Israel named after Thomas Masaryk, okay? He comes to visit Israel, and who does he visit? Who does he meet? Among many people, he meets Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, who was one of the great tzaddikim and chachamim in Yerushalayim. They wind up having a meeting, and they speak for a very long time. Gabriel Amos told me yesterday that if the meeting goes very long between presidents, prime ministers, then you know it's a good meeting. If they finish and they tell you that they had an open and frank conversation, you know that they screamed and yelled and cursed at each other, and got out as quickly as they could. All right? So Rav Sonnenfeld and Thomas Masaryk have a very long conversation. But it's interesting. What does Rav Sonnenfeld talk to Thomas Masaryk about in that meeting? He talks to him about this week's parasha. And he says that in the aftermath of World War II, that in this time of technological advancement, there was a feeling that countries had, even in the lead up to World War II, of tremendous nationalist pride. Look at us, we're unstoppable. We could do this, we could do that, we could do anything, we could do whatever we want. Like the Pasuk says, Kochi ve'otzem yadi asuli et ha'hayil hazeh. My strength, kochi, ve'otzem yadi, and the might of my hand, did for me this act of valor, this act of great strength. My friends, as we know always, the pride comes, the fnei shever gaon, before the fall comes the pride. And unfortunately, the pride of nations and the pride of men is often the things that steps in before they make a very big mistake, before they suffer a very big fall or a very big downturn. And he says to him, he says, I want to point something out. If you take a look in the pasuk, you'll notice that the people says, Hava, let us build for ourselves, levenim, nilbena levenim, let's make levenim for stones, and the levenim and the bricks were for them as stones, and the chomer, the unused cement, if you will, mortar that they'd used to make the bricks, haya lahem, became for them as mortar. What did they need to make their own bricks for? He asks. Why does the pasuk need to tell you exactly the construction materials? What is this? The IRS is asking for a bill of goods? You know, we need to know, what did they charge in Home Depot when they built the Tower of Babel? That's what we have to find out over here. Which exactly cement did they use? Was it bricks? Was it stones? Rav Yosef Chaim said, you have to understand, what the pasuk is communicating here is that after a flood, what should have come out? The aftermath of the flood should have been a realization of the people that without God's grace, they were fickle, they were fragile. There was no way for them to survive without Hashem's blessing in their life. And that should have built inside of them an emunah and a humility to understand that they were in God's hands. But instead, the people tried to reject God. And what did they do? They said, we could do this by ourselves. We're going to build a tower to the sky. What did they want to do? And we will make for ourselves, we don't need his name. We're going to make for ourselves a name in the heavens. We're going to put one of our guys in the White House. We're going to put one of our guys as the mayor of the city. We're going to do it. We're going to take control. We don't even need God. The stones that you provided in your world, we don't need your stones. We'll make our own stones. And the levenim were for them as stones. And Rav Yosef Chaim continued to point out, and he says that it's interesting. If they were trying to build a tower and it was going to reach the sky, the dumbest place you could start building that is in a valley. What are you, a moron? Mount Everest is already there. Build it at the top of Mount Everest. You need a much shorter tower. What's the answer? No. We're going to find the deepest place. We're going to do this by ourselves. We don't need God. We don't need his mountains. We don't need his stones. Nothing. It's all me. It's all us. I could survive by myself, for myself. My friends, one of the most important things about that conversation and what he was trying to communicate was that in this process of fighting for freedom, of attaining that freedom, of building something beautiful, is that there's always the risk that the person loses the humility and the gratitude of the blessings that they were given to be able to achieve what they had. I'm fond of quoting Ben Gurion, but not much of what he says. There's one line of his that I'm more fond of than any other. Ben Gurion said, he was a self-pronounced atheist. And he said, if anyone believes that the wars that they fought in Israel were not miraculous, was not a miracle, they are simply not a realist. Now you have to understand the profundity of that statement. What he's telling you is, I am willing to accept that this is a miracle, and I will challenge anyone. I'm in the field. I saw. I know. There's no way we could have, should have, or would have won this war. That means that it is an absolute miracle. But I don't believe in God, but I also don't believe that it wasn't a miracle. Do you understand how profound, though, that realization is?
We felt that way after 67.
And part of the reason why people feel that way is because the minute you attribute it, that miracle, to God, it takes away from the kochi ve'otzem yadi of what we did, of our strategy, and what we, and how we, and our bravery, and our courage. But my friends, This analysis back then, every once in a while, it gets driven home. You know, Baruch Hashem, thank God, we have, an army, and the army is there to protect Am Yisrael, and people are risking their lives and doing the most beautiful things on behalf of their brothers and sisters. People who were not called up for reserves are turning up. Nobody called them. They're turning up, willing to lay their lives on the line. And by the way, if over here you think you heard about people not getting vests, you think they didn't hear about it there? The guy's turning up to lay his life down on the line because he knows he can protect his brothers and sisters. There's an unbelievable story about this old retired soldier. As soon as he heard what he heard, jumped in his car, drove down south. Nobody called him. Nobody drafted him. Nobody assigned him to anything. And he got to one of the kibbutzim right as the terrorists were trying to break into the kibbutz. He shot a bunch of them, scared away the rest, and he saved the entire kibbutz. One guy, old guy, with a pistol. It's not to be believed. So you see something like that, and you see unbelievable courage and unbelievable bravery. It's us making our own bricks. But my friends, there's a danger in being so good. And part of the danger of having such a mighty army is that you might at certain stage start drinking your own Kool-Aid. And my friends, the colossal, and there is no other word for it, the colossal failure of our forces in the beginning of this attack, I think must serve as a reminder that these things that we've put our complete trust in, we've built systems to automatically reject and see and monitor in every which way. Every part of the system failed. Every part of the army is taking responsibility that the failure is mine. No, the failure is ours. We failed this way, we failed this way, we failed this way, we failed this way. Why am I sharing this with you, Rabotai? Not to minimize what our chayalim are doing, the opposite. They're willing to risk their lives, but to express that we are in what is called an impossible situation. We drafted 375,000 reserves. That's a drop in the bucket. If you think about what's going on with Iran, where Iran is putting people, shooting, you think Iran cares if Hamas wants to call off this war? You think Iran's going to decide what's based on what Gaza wants? They don't give a hoot about Gaza. They're attacking from Yemen, they're attacking from Iraq, they're attacking from Lebanon. Syria wants to get in on the game. Also with Syria, it's an axis of Iran and Russia and Syria. They're attacking from everywhere. If that wave comes towards you, there aren't enough reservists. If we all got on a plane from every single country we lived in, flew to Israel, you put a gun in the hand of every single Jew, man, woman, and child, it still wouldn't be enough. There's 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. My friends, I'm going to say Ben Gurion's words to you one more time. If you don't think that this has to happen as a miracle, you are not a realist. Every Israeli is sitting at home, Tagaita, ma amar Biden. Biden ze chaver shel Yisrael. Biden higia, Biden came. He's a friend of Israel. If we have America with us, Biden got home. And you know what the first thing Biden said was the main reason for his trip was to get humanitarian aid into Gaza. Immediately after coming and telling you, I'm here unswerving, unwavering loyalty. And you know what? They've done wonderfully in terms of what they've done. Hazaku Baruch. But just understand how fickle this is. How Talib could take hundreds of people and do another January 6th insurrection. Every one of those people is being tried and sent to prison. But not them. What about them? That's legal? Storming the Capitol is legal if you're on the left, just not if you're on the right? Are you watching? Are we watching what's happening, my friends? And just remember this and review it again and again. En lanu almi lehishayen ela al avinu shebashamayim. We have no one to rely on but our Father in heaven. Our Father in heaven commands us to do everything that we can. To go out with the best tanks and the best planes and the most courageous soldiers. He demands of us the greatest mitzvah observance. He demands of us unbelievable oceans of chesed and money funneled to Israel from each and every one of our pockets. He demands us at our very best. Otherwise, Hashem says, if you're not doing it, I'm not doing it. But if you're in, I'm in. But make no mistake, En lanu almi lihishaen, we have no one to rely on, to lean on, Ela al avinu shebashamayim, our Father in heaven. My friends, I'm always encouraged when I think of this pasuk. The pasuk says, Shila ma'alot, Esa einai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. A song of ascents. Esa einai el heharim, I lift my eyes to the mountains. Me'ayin yavo ezri. From where will my help come? Ezri me'im amunai, oseh shamayim v'aretz. My help comes from God, He who created heaven and earth. I'm always reassured when I think of that pasuk. Because I think David HaMelech was telling us something beautiful. Esa einai el heharim. I look at the mountains and I say, from whence shall my salvation come? Like the whence, didn't you? Right? Not the quarterback, he's terrible. Right? Where is it going to come from? Right? Ezri me'im Hashem. It's a little weird. Why is the guy looking at mountains and asking this question? Why would he look to mountains for help? When was the last time you had a problem and a mountain came to your aid? I know that the logo of Prudential is a mountain, but other than that, why would he have looked to a mountain for salvation? It's weird. The Midrash gives an alternate explanation. Al tikre heharim, don't read the mountains, ela hehorim, parents. I lift my eyes to the zechut avot, to our parents, to our grandparents, to the mitzvot that they did, to the love that God had for our forefathers. And I know that God won't reject us. That's one interpretation of the Midrash. But I want to share something with you. I want you to look, it's always important to see how the structure and flow of psukim go. I lift my eyes to the mountains, where will help come from? Ezri me'im amunai, my help will come from God, oseh shamayim va'aretz. My help will come from God, He who makes heaven and earth. I want to ask you a question. Where is a mountain? Is it on earth or is it in the heavens? Sorry? It's on earth, but it's somewhere in between earth and heaven. If you ever climb Mount Everest, you're already in the clouds by the time you hit the lower base camps. The nature of a mountain is that it starts at ground level, right? But it ascends tremendously. Not maybe all the way to the sky, sometimes it does, but somewhat in between. I think that's what the pasuk is saying. Esa einai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Every human being recognizes that I am of this earth. I live in a physical world. Things need to make sense. Things need to work in the ways of the world in order for them to work. So what do I look for in impossible situations? Esa einai el heharim. I look for something that exists on earth, but its head, rosho magia hashamayma, like the ladder in Yaakov's dream. And I wonder, me'ayin yavo ezri, where will I have the ability to be able to transcend the rules and the limitations of this world, to be able to live a safe life, a happy life? You ask yourself, how is this going to turn around? I bet you every Jew who lived through the Holocaust thought to themselves, unless Mashiach comes, we will never live again as Jews in this world safely. Never. I'm sure every survivor thought that. And yet, for the majority of most of our lives, we lived very peaceful existence as Jews in America, other countries. They could not have believed that the world would go back to that place. And where are we looking at now? Where they firebombed a synagogue in Berlin, where they burnt a synagogue in Tunisia to the ground, where there's riots all over America. 65 cops were injured in Germany in riots, in Belgium, people being stabbed in China, in Beijing, in France. France has made supporting Hamas or any terrorist organization or any gathering for it, they've made it a crime punishable 5 years in prison. Because they said, we can't control the chaos. This is extreme, it's violent extremism. And it blows our minds that people can't see that this is what happens.
We like supporting ISIS after 9/11.
Exactly. Now, my friends, we look to the heavens, we look to the mountains, and we ask God, Ma'ayin yavo ezri. How can we have a miracle? How can we be a miracle? How can we see a situation that seems so dire? How can we see something? Do you believe that this is going to resolve itself? Anyone here? You see this thing's escalating. We can't even see a way out. Says the pasuk, Ezri mi'im Hashem oseh shamayim va'aretz. You're making a mistake. You're wondering how God will get out of this. How we will get out of this. But God created the world from nothing. Oseh shamayim va'aretz. And not only did God asa shamayim va'aretz, but as our Sifarim tell us, when God created the world, He didn't create it and then leave it. God is constantly in an act of creation. Oseh shamayim va'aretz. He's making heaven and earth. He's making the legal, He's making the logical, He's making the rational, He's making the miraculous in every second of every day. What that means is, it's no skin off God's back to have a situation rapidly, instantaneously change from this to this. Let me explain. If I'm making a pot, a clay pot, and I make it and it's wonky, and now I'm trying to fix it with a hammer, I'm shaving it, it's a lot of work. But if I'm still in the process of making it, is it hard if it gets bent? What do? I just turn the pottery wheel 2 more times and then it's whole again, right? If the world is constantly in the state of oseh shamayim va'aretz, then it takes God no time whatsoever to be able to resolve a conflict. We've seen this happen in our lifetime. The Cuban Missile Crisis. Could have, would have, should have. How soon was it over? In the blink of an eye. We've seen this time and time again. Things that you thought were going to be so horrible, and then in the last minute actually turned around. My friends, Am Yisrael has a lot of zechuyot right now. And we need to keep that factory of zechuyot operating at full speed, full capacity. Our men, our women, our children. Yourself, your wife, your child, your mother, your father. We need to be encouraging people to do more. In England, they launched a campaign to ask people to put on tefillin who never put on tefillin. They have over 1,000 people putting tefillin on every day. Many who don't put on tefillin since their bar mitzvah. They have a campaign of people keeping Shabbat. Even someone who doesn't keep Shabbat. Even if you can't keep the whole Shabbat, pledge an hour, 2 hours of Shmirat Shabbat. These things are happening all around the world. And we have to make sure that we don't let up. Because we know, En lanu al mili sha'er el alavinu shbat shamayim. America sent Israel some ammo. A couple banks a couple of, what's it called? Of Iron Dome batteries. But my friends, what we are sending is not a couple, it's thousands, it's millions. Our mitzvah campaign is nearing 25,000 pledged mitzvot. My friends, we cannot let up. We cannot make the mistake of thinking we can do it alone. So all we need to do, my friends, is make sure that the scales are tipped on our favor in Shamayim. And then God will create a new reality. And it will come in the most surprising of ways. No one in their right mind would have dreamed that when Haman is trying to destroy the Jewish people, there's already a queen that nobody even knows about. And her name is Esther. And she turns the story on its head. And how long does it take? It takes 1 moment. A 1-minute conversation at a wine party. My friends, we should be zocher to understand, to feel, to see Yeshuat Hashem keheref ayin, that the salvation of God is like in the blink of an eye. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi